I'm just going to jump in here because everybody knows what we're talking about. Let me get this off here. Let me get to my proper banner. Okay, so my banner below me here says House settlement on the precipice. Are the A4 NCAA pushing their luck, which I've been saying for a long time? And if so, what are the implications of no ratification? If Judge Wilkins does not validate, does not sign off on this deal that's been hammered out over a year ago now. What are the implications to that? I'm going to try to get to those news items so you guys get the information directly from the experts, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So everybody knows I love Mitt Winter. He's one of the all-time greats in my opinion. Let me bring up his comment here. So I'm going to be referring to Mitt Winter quite a bit, and then there's other articles that owners I'll also get to. So first, and let me get this off here. Sorry. Let me get this comment off so I don't have to worry about two. That one doesn't need to be going. Okay. And let me make it full screen or make it little screen. It doesn't matter. So Mitt here says, and this is response to Judge Wilkins basically saying, no, I'm not going to allow you to do these roster limits. I warned you 2 weeks ago. You were told to change them. They did not change them. And now this is where we're at. So let's quickly read his comment here. Mitt Winter, let me post his comment from X. So we always give credit where credit's due. All right. He says, in a response to a Ross Dellinger article, first I'll read Ross Dellinger's summary. Judge Claudia Wilkin issued an order related to the House settlement today, giving attorneys 14 days. It's really important. 14 days to phase in or grandfather in roster limits, or she will, not maybe, will deny the entire House settlement. So let's talk about that for a question. Okay, will deny the entire. This is a deal they've been working on for like 5 years in pieces. Over 5 years, this deal's been in the works, and it all comes down to roster limits. So I'm just gonna ask you guys what I have always thought is an obvious question: why is this the thing that people want, the hill they want to die on? Why is the P4? I call it the A4 and the NCAA. Why do they want this to be the thing? It's right now, it's the hill that the entire deal could fall on. Just think about that. It's crazy if you think about it, but they want to regulate who's on these teams, how they get there, and then the next step will be once it's approved, then they'll go in and start doing things like dialing back transfer rules. Maybe they'll touch NIL again. Whatever it is, it's all based on this House agreement. And I'm going to get to that tweet in just a second that will refer to that. Mitt Winter, let me get to his comment. He says, the NCAA P4 thought Judge Wilkin wasn't serious about phasing in roster limits. Duh. She said it more than once. She said it, she gave him 2 weeks 2 weeks ago. Now they're giving him another 2 weeks. It's asinine to me that the A4 and the NCAA are willing. This is the hill they want to die on. I continue, or Mitt continues. She was and said she'll deny the House settlement without agreement to phase them within 14 days. Any disruption that may occur is a problem of defendants and NCAA members' schools' own making. In other words, she is saying to their faces, you guys have to lie in the bed that you made. This is not going to be on my. This isn't going to be something that you're going to come back and get to like ask for a re-review, right? Go to appellate judge and say, I want you to take this ruling by Judge Wilkin and say, no, she was wrong. We're going to reinstate these things that was in the original agreement. She's saying, nah, that's not going to fly. I'm telling you right now, this is pretty much proof of any changes in an appellate court. And if there is problems, it's not in her backpack. It's totally in the A4 and the P4's purview to make these changes. Let me get to a few comments. The court will delay denial of final approval to permit parties to attempt to modify the settlement agreement so that members of the injunctive relief settlement class will not be harmed by the immediate implementation of the roster limits provisions. Okay, we'll get to that. I continue. This is the ruling itself. Within 14 days of this order, the parties shall make their best efforts to consult with their mediator, Professor Eric Green, remotely and together or separately about potential modifications of the settlement agreement to address court's concerns. Okay, it's actually written in the order. This isn't notes that happened after she's presided and walked off the stage. She put it in the order itself. So there's no hiding what it means. Okay, and I'm going to get to a comment here. So we're going to put that on pause for a second. Everybody loves Bob Sankey, or is it Bob Sankey, right? I don't care about his first name. I'm going to leave this comment so you guys can go to this one so everybody has a chance to check it out. So this is a review by Ben Portnoy, but the original comments come directly from SEC commissioner, and he says, "You're seeing now over the issues of contract law that are on full display now. What are the second and third order effects? Legal minds can debate that. One of our realities now is anybody with a law degree, hello, Mitt Winter, and a Twitter account is like an expert." Okay, how asinine is that, everybody? If they're a lawyer and if they have a Twitter account, that immediately takes away all their authority. Can you believe that? He's not a lawyer. Sankey's not a lawyer. And yet he's talking about saying these critical things people have been saying about him addressed to him. They don't really matter because they're done by these, fly-by-night jurists out there, lawyers that are just chasing chasing not cabs, but chasing ambulances to get money. And they've topped on Twitter, and now they're getting money, and that's just the way it goes. So Sankey just continues to be a complete ass. You go back and you're going to deal with issues. Sorry, they put something out, and I'll have a university president send it to me. Everybody start crying for him, please. It doesn't mean it's right. It's an opinion. You go back, you're going to deal with issues around agreements that are signed. Are they enforceable in this environment? Are they enforceable under the law? And that's to be determined. So he's saying, pass the stupid thing, get House approved, and then what'll happen when we go to enforce these things, we'll pretty much at that point make up our own rules, and it'll be on your backs to sue to get it changed. There's almost 200 lawsuits filed ready for House to be approved on many, many reasons. Disenfranchised universities, which is the one reason I thought it would be immediately taken off, right when it was talked about last year. I said, no way these little schools are going to let everybody else dictate to them, especially the A4 who have all the money and power, dictate to them where their money has to go to pay for past NIL damages. And how do they pay for them? Out of their NCAA credits for basketball. That's where I thought the first lawsuit would be. There's 150, almost 200 of them, and they're on different reasons. Now the big firebrand is what? It's roster limits. Literally over 1,000 letters. It might be closer to 2,000 letters at this point. Were signed by people basically saying, my son, myself, my neighbor was impacted by these roster limits. These are my dream schools, and that's where I always wanted to be, but because you're limiting the roster, I can't be on that team. And it's not for any other reason than it's just arbitrary. There's not a lot of specifics around the reason. So it's insane. Okay, so that's Sankey. Let me get back here again. Let me go back to this one. The court can or will delay denial of final approval to permit parties to attempt to modify the settlement agreement so that members of the relief class will not be harmed. She is specifically saying, I do not want to harm the athletes. So you're going to have to make these changes. Let me get to another comment. So Ben Portnoy replied to that comment from Sankey. And his comment was, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey spoke to the World Congress of Sports. One question that came up: how can schools, among other things, enforce contracts amid this transactional period? In other words, how can a school enforce an NIL contract? Well, no, what they would call a revenue sharing contract, when there's nothing to base it on. The House hasn't been approved yet. Does everybody understand? I know you understand it because you're the smartest people in social media broadcasting, watching my channel specifically now, along with a bunch of our partners. Greg Flugar being at the top of that list. But how do you answer that question? They built everything around it. The entire apparatus is built around the House settlement. And now the judge has given them 14, now 12 days to fix it. The best way to do that, I've been reading, is grandfathering them in over a period of years. Leave it where it is this year. Next year, cut it down by a percentage. The next year, cut it down by a percentage until eventually, after 3 or 4 years, you get to the number that you want to be at, which right now I believe is 105 scholarships. That's where they want to be. The current rule is 85. So there's 20 scholarship difference there. But then you get rid of the walk-ons and you get rid of the players that aren't getting scholarships. What are they called? Walk-ons, personal walk-ons or something like that. Player walk-ons. Anyway. So everybody's calling them out and saying this is just garbage, right? This is completely made up. I posted that link for Ben Portnoy. I encourage everybody to go and read that tweet and then dive in further on this breakdown that he has for Bob Sankey, because in my opinion, it's pretty. Greg Sankey, I keep saying Bob. Somebody corrected me, and I probably missed it in comments. Greg Sankey. I apologize, Greg Sankey. I didn't mean to say that. I had a Bob on my brain for some reason. All right, so we continue. Summary. Let's bottom line it, right? Lots I talked about. You guys have seen this all on Twitter. So I don't really think I'm instructing you as much as just collecting all the information and turning around and try to give it to you in a small bite-sized form. But Mitt Winter sums this up. Update on the House settlement. Not surprising. There's no option other than grandfathering, phasing in roster limits if the NCAA P4 want the settlement to be approved. Okay, so that's where we're at now. Now, where do we take that information? What do we do with it, right? How do we turn it into a living, breathing comment / actionable item, right? Well, first, I'll answer that in just a second. But first, I'm going to get to a super chat because we take super chats first all around here. Mark Bowman, thank you so much, Mark, a valuable member of the Mafia family. Really appreciate your comment here. Some schools, Iowa being one of them, have already reduced their rosters to 105. Okay, Mark, thank you for bringing this up. I didn't actually have a tweet from Mitt Winter to address this, but there were several I could have grabbed. This is a fact. You know how I know it's a fact? Because BYU already started doing it. BYU has already lost players that they wanted in their 2 and 3 deep, probably 3 and 4 deep, that they had to get rid of. Because BYU is always going to be ahead of the curve on enforcement. They don't want any questions about the way they run their programs. So the minute there's a change that might affect them and could be perceived as a bad hit against the church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, BYU is their flagship, right? They're not going to deal with any of that. So they've already started cutting down. I believe the last number I heard was they were down to 115 or 120, but that's out of almost 150 they had in spring camp. Everybody gets a uniform, right, for spring camp. So you have disappointed players out there. I didn't realize Iowa was doing, but if somebody went and did a Google search or asked Grok, ask him how many schools have already cut down from to 105 players on their rosters, I bet you that number's quite high. I would be willing to bet it's at least 50%. Now the smart schools, and let me get to that. Let me get to that one. How do I want to say this? That's not the right one either. Damn it. I misplaced the one I wanted. There is a tweet, and I'll find it on Twitter and I'll post it out, that basically says all of this is screwed up in the first place. All of it's screwed up. The moment House was announced last year, everybody went to implement it, right? Everybody said it's done. Temporary approval was given in the fall. It's really done now. So we're just going to start doing NIL contracts, revenue sharing contracts, roster limit cut downs, on the line, down the line, down the line. All these things that are in the House settlement, schools have already started writing contracts and handing them to players saying, you have to sign this contract. The player goes, well, I'm not signing anything that isn't executable today. You guys can change it later, and I'm not going to do that. So you have all these players sitting ready and willing for the House settlement, and if they sign a contract, it could go the way of the dodo if House never gets approved. Or the reverse would be all these schools are complaining because nobody will sign their NIL deals. And in doing that, you are naturally leaving people out. And the reason is the House deal is not approved. So it blows me away that we got here. Everybody started putting these contracts together based on a contract that isn't even finished. Settlement, not contract. The House settlement has not been approved. So they have 14 days, now 12 or 11 days, to get that thing approved by Judge Wilkin. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So how do we work from here? I don't know what to tell you, Mark, except for to say your school and my school and probably several others have already done the work. And now there is a possibility the whole thing gets unwound, even if she approves the House contract. It'll probably be because of what? They made these roster changes that she's asking for. So if they make the changes, but they grandfather them in, schools that are 100, that are 105, 120, they get to keep those students. They're not going to leave the teams. If I would have been BYU in charge, regardless of trying to be above board and follow all the rules and regulations, I would have not cut down anything until House was signed. And then everybody else would have had to deal with it the same way at the same time. Now you have these disparities. Iowa has already cut down. Now what do? They've cut down to 105. Do they call these players back that they let go? No, you can't, because why? They're on another team. Iowa now just lost, and I'm making this up, 3 players in the transfer portal, guys you wanted to keep. Now they're going to go play for Nebraska. I mean, what the hell are we doing here? Anyway, let's get to some good questions. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'm going to fly through as many of these as I can. Again, we're just going to start at the beginning. Member comments come first. Super chats are second. And then open comments, I'll try to get to some, are third. Ryan Willie says, won't be here for the big freaking Friday show. Let Wild Ute know that as of right now, that Wisconsin will crush Utah on September 16th. In 2028 in Camp Randall, or at Camp Randall, and that'd be in Wisconsin. Good to see you, Ryan. Thank you so much for being here. Jeffrey Bell checking in, valuable member of the Mafia family, saying Semper Fi and on Wisconsin. Man, we've got all these Big Ten people. I love you guys. Trojan Fight checking in. Good to have you here, Trojan Fight. You've been a frequenter around recently. Thank you so much for becoming a subscriber, and consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia family. You get access to all of our member videos. I don't really have time to run through those right now, except to say we've almost got 100 member videos right now, and they are the best member videos you'll ever see. And I've challenged a bunch of people, if you watch our member videos and you don't think they're the best productions you've ever seen, let's talk on Twitter, and I'll see if I can't get you your money back, whatever that may be. I said that now for 2 years. Nobody's done it. Let's see here. Continue down. Mr. Ed Wayner checking in from University of Houston land. Hello, Nathan. Good to see you, Ed. Let's see. Jackson Johnson checking in from Voice of College Football, also a friend and moderator of this show. Good to see you, Jackson. What's up, College Football Mafia Nation? I love that so much. Bob Swinger says everybody has already started doing it. BYU isn't the only one. I wasn't saying they were. They were the only one I knew of. Now we know Iowa, and now we know Penn State. Steele Austin, gotta get our show, Steele. Maybe next week. You and I, let's talk. We'll talk offline. Let's see if we can pull that off. Steele Austin checking in from the Ute, University of Utah land. Yep, at Bob Swinger is correct. Everyone is cutting their roster down to 105. Okay. To Town Hawk, how we doing? Checking in for Kansas Jayhawks. It will be cheaper for the schools to grandfather in rather than risk triple damages if the settlement falls through. I could not agree with you more. 2025-26 should be a throwaway season. There shouldn't be any rules enforcement at all, and set the mark for 2026. Troll grinding cheek clapper, one of the all-time great names, I swear. It's the man, the myth, the BYU legend. It's Wild Ute. Yes. I think he's better looking than I am, Troll grinding. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Let's see here. We'll continue down. Carla Jenkins, good to see you, Carla. One of these days, got to get you on a show. I'm not going to quit asking. I would love to have your insight and thoughts of your neck of the woods and what you think about where college football is right now. I love everything you do, and thanks for following and subscribing very much. To Town Hawk, it shouldn't even take lawyers. Just say yes to the grandfathering and be done with it. I could not agree more. And to Town Hawk, can't agree more either. All right. So any other questions about this? I don't want to beat this up anymore. We're a half hour in. I want to get to this other thing. But are there any other questions about the House settlement really quick? Anybody can throw up a question that I need to answer? I think it's pretty straightforward. They have 14 days to fix this stupid thing. And if they don't, then the whole House settlement could disappear. All right. If you still have questions after I go through my second piece of the show, feel free to hit me up and we will talk about them. Okay. Let me get up my second banner. So I'm transitioning to the second half of our show today.